right up back there? Okay, thank you for coming to our distinguished lecture series. I actually am very excited to introduce our next author because I became an admirer of Michael Holley's work when he was first writing for the Boston Globe, and I really just enjoyed his columns. And I'm not just saying that because he's standing here. I actually really did. I really did. I read all of them to the end and everything. And, it's true, and so I really did enjoy his columns. And I always thought they were funny and fresh and smart, and new, and gave me an angle I hadn't thought of before. And then he moved on to books, and he did the same thing for there. And then now he's a radio personality, and he's just there's no limit to where he's going to go, I'm sure, in the media. But we're very, very privileged to have him. This is our second time. We feel very honored, and I'm also a baseball fan, a sports fan, and I said the first time he was here that two things I love to do are read and follow sports, and read good literature and follow sports, and good writing and sports don't always go together, but in this case they do. It's very exciting for me to introduce Michael Holley.
What a charmer, huh? What a charmer this guy is. How you guys doing? Good. Now, who's got the party for the Red Sox game tonight? Whose house? No, all of you got some big screen TVs, HD. 10 o'clock, everybody gonna stay up for the Red Sox A's game? No? You shaking? No? Did people get up for the 6 o'clock? Really? I mean, I got up for it. I had to at 6 o'clock, but it was just very strange to be, watching Dice K struggling in the first inning, in the second inning, and at that point it's 6:30 in the morning, 6:45. It's just too early to get mad. It's just, it didn't seem real. But it would have made for a very interesting commute that day if they had lost. People out there, road rage squared. But and the next day, it was pretty obvious that the game was going to be over. Rich Harden had it going. But anyway, I digress. It's good to be out here at Willow Books, and it's funny how things work. The first time I was out here, it was for my first book, Patriot Rain, and this was my first signing in Massachusetts. I like to say it was my first signing, but I was telling them in the back, my first signing was actually in Hartford, West Hartford. That was really good planning by the publisher, huh? West Hartford for Patriot Rain. Yeah, real nice job. And about 4 people there, and they thought I was somebody else. It was a misunderstanding, but the first time I came out here, there was a real signing. And a lot of things have changed since that point. In 2004, I think it was September 2004 when I came out. That day, I was late to my own book signing. And they didn't know that that's usually how things work with me. I push it. I push deadlines to the last day, to the last hour. If you tell me to be there at 7, I will be there maybe at 6:50, 8:59. But that day, I think I was 15 or 20 minutes late because I kind of miscalculated traffic from Boston. Yeah, a lot of lights out here. You guys should work on that. Can you talk to somebody about that? Okay. Rotaries, of course. New England staple, rotaries. But a lot of things have changed. I had hair the last time I came out here. I was single the last time I came out here. Met a woman at a book signing here at Willow Books, and no, listen, there's my wife in the back. Say hi, sweetheart. Wait, there's my wife. Hey. Someone asked me earlier when we walked in, is that your assistant? I said, no, I'm her assistant. You know how it goes, fellas who are married. I'm her assistant. She runs the show, and I watch all the Lifetime that I can to keep her happy. But I'm very excited about this book that some of you are holding. Red Sox Rule. I'm not excited about the title, but writers don't pick the titles. I'm just telling you the truth. But I'm very excited about the subject. I went to Terry Francona maybe in December of 2006, and I approached him with the idea of just what it takes to manage in Boston and in New England. We know how passionate Red Sox fans are. We know how Red Sox fans kind of pick apart every single thing, especially when you're losing, but even when you're winning. And I just wondered, from his perspective, what it was like to go about his business day to day when people are so fascinated and intrigued by what the manager does. He listened to the idea and he said, let's give it a shot. I really couldn't ask for more from Terry Francona in terms of cooperation on this project. I write in the acknowledgments that there are a couple of things about the guy that just give you pause. You don't expect. Number one, he is probably the most trusting coach / manager that I've ever come across. He has his wallet out in view in the clubhouse. And sometimes there's $300 in there. Sometimes there's $500 in there. And the understanding is, if you need some money, if you're a clubhouse guy, or if you're David Ortiz and you need 20 bucks, just go in the manager's office and peel off a 20. And if you pay him back in 3 days, that's fine. If you pay him back in 3 weeks, 3 months, that's fine too. I wish I had known that early in the book, in the book process. I could have financed some things. But the other thing about him is that he's extremely humble, and it's good. I don't know if you guys feel this way. I think it's always refreshing to see someone who's extremely smart and extremely humble. They don't have to tell you how smart they are. Francona you'll have to get it from other people to hear about his smarts. Now, he will play that to the hilt. He doesn't want you to think that he's very smart, and sometimes he'll plead ignorance, but he always knows what's going on. He'll tell you that he doesn't know what's in the paper. He knows what's in the paper. He'll tell you that he didn't listen to the radio. Well, he's aware of what's on the radio. He's aware of what his players are thinking about. He's aware of what people are saying about his players. But his humility really jumped out at me. In January, he went to the White House, before the team went, as a celebration of the championship. He went to the White House in January, and the next day, he sent a text message. Had dinner with the president last night. Pretty cool. I'm reading this. Did I just read this right? The president of the Red Sox? Larry Lucchino? Or are you talking about the president of the United States? And I don't know what your political leanings are. That's beside the point. You had dinner with the president last night, and you just kind of throw it out there in a text. So I had to follow up, and after some considerable teeth pulling, you find out that George Bush, how about this? George Bush is asking a lot of questions about baseball, and he used to be a baseball owner for the Texas Rangers, but his biggest question for Francona was, what's it like to manage Manny Ramirez? The number one question. So even the president doesn't understand. Why does he just watch those balls? So he had steak with the president, and they're hanging out. But this guy, on top of the humility, it's clear to me, and if anybody out there has ever been in line for a job and you didn't get it, listen to this story. You should be inspired by Terry Francona's story. Before he was hired by the Red Sox in November of 2004, he went on a job interview with Baltimore. Didn't go well. They asked him, I think very early in the interview, maybe 2 or 3 minutes in, how do you feel about bringing back the entire coaching staff? Well, wait a minute. You're going to hire me, and you're not going to allow me to hire my own coaches. It doesn't sound like you really want to change things around here. So that's one of those uncomfortable situations. When you know, and I said in the book, it's kind of like being on a date. Being on a date, and 5 minutes in, you don't want her and she doesn't want you, okay? And you both know it, and you're looking, okay, waiter, check, please. So that didn't work. They hired a guy named Lee Mazzilli, and they went on to fire Lee Mazzilli. He had an interview with the Chicago White Sox. He had an interview at O'Hare, at a restaurant near O'Hare, the airport. And there are business travelers going by. He says the general manager of the White Sox, he's known him for a long time, Ken Williams, former player, seemed pretty distracted during the interview. You know, Francona is saying, this is my most important point, right in the middle of an important point. Ken Williams slices a roll and starts to butter it and puts it in his mouth. So he's not listening to him. So it's clear if I'm going to have an interview near the airport and this guy is more concerned about buttering his roll than talking to me, then this is not the job for me. So he didn't get that job either. That job went to Ozzie Guillen. They did win a World Series, but Ozzie Guillen is a little bit of a loose cannon for those who aren't familiar with him. And finally, is that Jerome? Is that Jerome back there? There's Jerome. By the way, you see that sometimes. You're telling a story. This guy, stand up, Jerome, for a second. Let me give you a tangent, okay? Let me brag about this guy here. This is Jerome Dupree. He's a drummer. This guy, give him applause. Come on. Where are your manners? Where are your manners? Give him some applause. Now, he's in a band. He's in many bands, and he's done many things. His resume is incredible. But he's in a band called the Jeff Robinson Trio. They play every Sunday night. If you're in Cambridge, Massachusetts, a place called the Lizard Lounge. He's there, and this is what they do. Now, you know what you guys should do? I got an idea for you. Right now, they play behind poets. So the poets get up there, and they say many, many, many poems. Because before the music starts and you hear somebody talking about, in the early years, and I hated you, and I still hate you, and you're like, oh my God, one of these tales. And then they come in with some brilliant music, and they just kind of save these poems that are going far, far afield. But you guys could come here and play behind authors. But Jerome Dupree is a very talented guy and a dear friend of mine, so thanks for coming. I just noticed him there. Oh. You'll get your money afterwards. Yeah. Even though he didn't come to my wedding. That's okay. No, I know. See, it's a better...
We were at the Red Sox game.
I know, it's a better story if I just say you don't come. No one really wants to know the real story. It just makes you guys look kind of bad for not coming. But no, really, I wanted him to play at my wedding, but my wedding happened to be on the same day as your anniversary?
Yes, and we were at the Red
Your anniversary, and they celebrated their anniversary. Was it Toronto? Was it Toronto and the Red Sox? So they spent the day. It is synchronized, so it's good to see you. What was I talking about before I just shouted you out? Oh, his interview. Okay, so thank you for bringing me back in. So finally, on his third interview with the Red Sox, he found his match. So if you've ever been rejected for a job and you think, oh, this is the end of the line, that job was for me, there's something better for you around the corner, because there couldn't be a better marriage between a manager and an organization, specifically a manager and a general manager, Theo Epstein and Terry Francona. When Francona was in Oakland, they really believed in sabermetrics. And sabermetrics, focusing on areas of baseball that other people have undervalued. And they didn't have a lot of money with the Oakland A's, so they would focus on on-base percentage. They would focus on things that other teams just took for granted, and they tried to take less and produce more. It worked sometimes, but when you don't have a lot of money, there are limits to how far you can go. So Francona would have these long baseball debates with the general manager of the A's, Billy Beane, and he would say at the end of these debates, you know what, I would love to be part of a franchise where the jocks listen to the Ivy Leaguers and the Ivy Leaguers listen to the jocks, and then you take the best of what both people have to say and you bring it together and you have a strong organization. Well, that happened in Oakland, except they didn't have any money. With the Red Sox, top 5 payroll in baseball, the Ivy Leaguer, Theo Epstein, listens to the jock, Terry Francona. The jock, Terry Francona, listens to the Ivy Leaguer, Theo Epstein. They bring it together, and that is part of the reason the Red Sox are once again favorites to win the World Series. Having a payroll helps, having a strong payroll helps, having David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez helps, and Josh Beckett, but you also have to be a smart organization. I mean, there are lots of organizations, like the one in New York, has a lot of money, spends the most money, but doesn't win a championship every year. And I think a lot of people believe, in New York, they believe just because we spend the most money, we're the best team in baseball. And I think they're getting away from that now. They're starting to focus on some of their young talent, but it took a long time for them to get to that point, and it took the Red Sox winning 2 championships in 4 years for them to see the light, to see how the Red Sox were getting things done. Now, my plan tonight is not to yap on and on about the writing process and oh, how deep I am. Really, I want to. I just wanted to give you a general idea of where I was coming from, what I had in mind when I wrote this book. But I'm always interested in hearing what you guys have to say. So I'll take some questions. I hope I give you some good answers, and then we can sign some books, and we can go to his house for the baseball game. Yeah, you go to your house. No, not a good idea. No, you guys brothers.
Yeah.
So, no, his room's messy or something.
Yeah, he said I had school tomorrow.
You have school tomorrow. Okay. Well, we got work tomorrow. Come on. They got to pay a mortgage. I don't think so. Do you? Maybe. Okay. Anyway, any questions? Any questions? I'd love to take some. Well, I think the love-hate relationship is not on the team. I think it's with the media, members of the media and the players. And it's not just a problem specific to the Red Sox. I think if you're a professional athlete, you're always wondering where members of the media are coming from. What's their angle? And so if you don't have a relationship with a certain reporter or a certain broadcaster, you're a little skeptical about their motives. And just like anything else, you build a relationship and you have an idea of where that person is coming from. Now, in the case of Curt Schilling and Dan Shaughnessy, they do have a relationship. It's not a good one. So if Dan Shaughnessy is asking Curt Schilling a question, Schilling knows he's going to take a shot at me at some point, and he's used to it. And the great thing about Curt, a lot of people criticize him for this. I think it's pretty good. He's got his blog, and we make fun of the blog, 38 pitches, but he's got a forum. So if there's some misinformation put out there, if it's a little more than just your average one-liner, your average shot, if it's something that needs to be addressed, he's got a forum online that he can use to clean up the issue, or he can go on the radio and talk about it. That's pretty much all I got. anything in there is all I've got, especially with that deadline looming. But
personalities. We watch these guys on television, and we think we know them, but we really don't know anything about them. But they all sound like and look like such interesting characters as human beings.
Well, I really could have gone on and on. I mean, I could have written 300, 400 pages on Francona. If I had just focused on him, didn't worry about the 2007 season, didn't worry about working in the Red Sox angle and the Theo angle. He was fascinating to deal with and very easy to deal with. When you're writing a book like this and you're trying to get everything right, I hope, unless you make it up, but if you're trying to get it right, sometimes it takes 3 or 4 questions, the same question over and over. You said this before. I just want to be sure, is this right? And I did that with him constantly. I was in contact with him daily for about a year. So I would call him and say, okay, here's my daily dumb question for you. I mean, there's a lot of little stuff, especially after the season was over and I had done my research and had interviewed him many times face to face. Well, the season's over, and now it's time to really get this thing done. It's time to write. You start to write, and you see a hole there, or there's a question. So he was available far after the season. He was available at 10 o'clock in the morning. He was available at 10 o'clock at night. So I'm just really grateful that he was open enough and candid enough to talk about some things in baseball that are pretty private, and in his personal life. I mean, his personal life, I don't know if you guys have you guys finished the book? Okay, you haven't finished the book. You got to do it. I mean, I'm telling you, you got to finish the book. But check out chapter 9, a chapter called Life After Death. We all know about his dad. His dad played baseball in the major leagues, but he didn't talk much about his mom. So there's some things about his mom in there, some things about his family history, some things about his personal physical history that will really leave you having a lot of respect for his toughness, not just his mental toughness, but his physical toughness, because he's been through quite a bit. And finally, I'll just say, that's really a good question. I'll say, I'm glad I have the opportunity to see Francona win 2 championships in 4 years, because it kind of expands the conversation on what it takes to be a champion. Usually, the champion is kind of pigeonholed into this little caricature of a fire and brimstone, Vince Lombardi type, even a Bill Belichick type, very serious, no jokes. And Francona couldn't be more opposite than Bill Belichick. They were down 3-1 to Cleveland. 15 minutes before that game, before Game 5, their season could be over, he's joking around and he's talking about how much fun he's having watching the games. The team has lost 3 games in a row. And he's talking about how much he enjoys October and this time of year. He's loose. He doesn't try to be anyone else. So that's a portrait of a champion. Bill Belichick, 3 championships in 4 years at one point. That's a portrait of a champion too. I just like the fact that you just can't say a champion is this or a champion is that. A champion is this and that and everything in between. Who's got the most interesting question? Whoever's got the most interesting question, go.
Would you rather write or broadcast?
Wow, this is taped. This is on tape. Where is she? Where is she? The woman to put this thing on. Yeah, this is your fault. See what I'm saying? You put me on the spot. Now, she put this on me earlier. She said, okay, I'm just going to mic you up here, and I want to let you know that you are mic'd, and this is being recorded. So I was back there. We were telling stories about Boston personalities. And then 15 minutes into it, I said, oh, wait a minute. I forgot that this thing is on. So you have, my life is in your hands. I'm throwing myself at the mercy of the court. My life is in your hands. Be kind to me. But no, I'm going to give you a nice political answer, and it's a true answer. When I was writing this book, I was thinking, you know what? I really miss writing. I enjoy it so much. Maybe I'll do this full time. And then when I finished the book, and I'm focusing more on, because I had to take about 2 or 3 weeks off finally just to finish it, to wrap up some loose ends. And when I focused back on radio, I said, I really enjoy the radio. So I really can't separate it. I can't. Every medium has its strength, and it has something that I really like, that I can really get into. As far as writing, there are things I do in writing. There are thoughts I have in writing that I'll never have on the radio or I'll never have on TV. It's just a different way of communication. It's a different way of navigating through your thoughts. So there's no comparison. Radio I like because with a 4-hour show, you don't have the challenge of TV. TV, you have to fit into like a 25 or 30-second window. Say that statement, say it quickly, get out of there. They ask another question, say it quickly, get out. Radio, you can kind of take your time, you can let your personality come out a little more and just be more conversational. So I do enjoy that. And I do enjoy talking with some fans, the intelligent fans, and even the fans who, yeah. I enjoy talking to them too. So I think every medium has its strength. I danced pretty well there, didn't I? Well, for Francona, a tremendous amount of input because he buys into their system. Well, that's not the only reason. He does buy into the system. He believes that there are many ways to evaluate a player. That's one. But 2, and this is probably most significant, he has front office experience. He was in the front office with Cleveland under Mark Shapiro, who's also an excellent general manager. And so Shapiro used to give him assignments. Hey, find me a center fielder. You know what our payroll is. We don't have a lot of money to spend. I need a guy who can do this. And Francona gave him 3 names. And out of those 3 names that Francona gave him, Shapiro signed 2. So general managers know that he's not just looking at it as a manager. He's looking at it as a baseball observer. His managerial agenda doesn't come into it. Another example, Jonathan Papelbon, Theo saw Jonathan Papelbon as a starter and insisted, this guy's a starter. Francona told him, no, this guy's a closer. You should really look at him as a closer. He's got the mentality, he's got the makeup, he's got the stuff. With his pitching repertoire as a starter, he's probably going to run into trouble in the 5th or 6th inning because they're going to start catching up to what he's doing. As a closer, an inning, 2 innings, they won't be able to touch him. He'll be filthy. He'll make the All-Star team. He said that before Papelbon was even in the major leagues. So that's one thing. And finally, I think Theo listens to Francona because Francona has credibility with pointing out his own weaknesses. He really insisted on Clay Meredith. You guys remember Clay Meredith, pitcher? He really insisted on Clay Meredith. We got to rush this guy to the big leagues. He's ready. He's ready. Theo told him, Clay Meredith's not ready. He gave in to the manager anyway. Clay Meredith came up, wasn't ready at that time, and Tito went to him, Francona, that's his nickname, went to him and said, okay, you're right. He wasn't ready. My bad. So they have this give and take relationship, and if a kid is on the verge and Francona is tempted to call for him, he'll tell Theo, I know how you feel about him, so I don't want to take any chances. I want to win this game tomorrow. I want to win this game next week, but I'm more concerned about the long-term livelihood of the franchise, so I can balance that versus my short-term agenda. You got a question up here. I'm going to get to you, but didn't you have a question?
Did you have any stress while writing?
Oh, man. Let me shake your hand. That's the best question. That's the best question. I appreciate it. What's your name?
Brennan.
You're smart. You're a smart guy. He asked, did I have any stress writing the book? Absolutely. Yes. Yes. This is what you should understand. If you want to be a writer, I want you to be a writer. I love young writers, but there are these things called deadlines. And worse than deadlines, there are these things called editors. These people called editors. So they wanted it yesterday. That was the whole thing. They wanted it, and we got to have this thing out. So there was a lot of negotiation involved. Excuse me, got a little cold here. Almost immediately, almost 5 minutes after I knew I was going to do this book and the idea was approved, I went to my editor. His name is Mauro DiPreta, and I kept telling him, I need more time. I need more time. And he wouldn't give me more time. So I took the very aggressive move. I just didn't give him any copy. I didn't give him the manuscript. So I was able to extend it by another 4 weeks or 6 weeks. So there was a lot of stress there. And if you talk to my wife, yeah, there was stress because I wasn't doing anything around the house. I was just writing a book. That's it. Oh, that's good. Those are good questions. He had four losing seasons in Philadelphia. A few things changed. One, the calendar. I mean, he was 37 when he got his first job. They weren't very good. They had just decided that World Series team from 1993, they didn't win the World Series, but they went. That core of that team was aging. They weren't going to win anything. They decided we got to start over. They tried to start over on the cheap. They wanted to go with their kids. Their manager was a kid. I think with Francona, he is probably best with a veteran team or guys who have been in the league 4 or 5 years, the core of the team, because he has this novel idea that a professional just wants to do his job, that a professional doesn't need someone prodding him and standing over him, hovering over him, trying to get him to do what he's paid to do. So with a young team, he probably gave them a little too much leeway. He admits that. Try to treat them like veterans when they weren't veterans. And also, they didn't have any money. Or if they had money, they weren't spending it. And if they had money that they were spending, they weren't spending it on their bullpen or on starting pitching. One year they had Wayne Gomes. Who? Right, yeah. Wayne Gomes is their closer. After Curt Schilling, they didn't have much there. They had a pretty good lineup, poor rotation, poor bullpen. He has changed a bit because he has more experience, and you like to think your second time doing a job, you're going to be a little better than the first time. But at his core, he's a nice guy who thinks professionals can police themselves and hold each other accountable. and be on the same page for a common goal, which is winning. Yeah, yeah, that happens all the time. I mean, too many examples to name, but I think when that happens, you just have to, the code, the ballpark code is, especially if you're writing for a newspaper, if you rip somebody on a Tuesday, you have to show up at the ballpark on a Wednesday. Because they kind of respect that. I mean, even if you're saying something they don't like, what they hate is somebody who's just throwing shots in the dark and they never see them. So if I'm going to jump on somebody, I try to make a point to be around so they can just scream at me and get it over with. Because they never, I mean, they're not going to hit you. I don't think. But it's entertainment, though. That's all entertainment when they're yelling. But back to your statement. Your statement, though, I think is a good one. He has a gift for dealing with a number of personalities. He has been in every position, every conceivable position as a baseball player and baseball manager. He was the son of a baseball player. At the end of his career, Tito Francona, the elder, his father, was a journeyman, so he played in a lot of cities. He was a first-round pick. Terry Francona I'm talking about now. He was a young player who sat on the bench. He was an injured player, blew out both of his knees, had shoulder surgery. He was a released player. He was a pinch hitter. He was a player who a manager didn't talk to for 2 months. He was a journeyman himself, playing for several teams over a 10-year career. So he has seen baseball from all angles, from the top, from the middle, from the bottom, as a son of a player. And so he takes all those experiences, and I think he brings it into his job on a daily basis. I'll tell you a quick story before I sign these books. I know you guys want to get these books signed, but we still got a little time before the game. Anybody cooking? Anybody gonna cook? I mean, we can do a little potluck. Yeah, he likes that. You like the potluck. Okay, there we go. A quick story. And this is, I think, the genius of Francona, how he disciplines underground. I mean, kind of like under the radar. Julio Lugo last year didn't know the signals for the first couple months of the year. Maybe it had something to do with his struggles starting up. He just didn't understand what they were saying, or didn't take the time to understand what the signals were. Sometimes he wouldn't even look at DeMarlo Hale, the third base coach. He didn't know the signals. It was a problem. The players knew it was a problem. Francona knew it was a problem. No one in the media knew about it. The fans didn't know about it. He would never call Lugo out in front of the media. So one day, during batting practice, he's walking along, he sees Lugo, he goes and he puts his arm, drapes his arm on Lugo's shoulder. Now, if you're watching, if you're a member of the media, you say, oh, there's Francona again. He's such a friendly guy. He'll never jump on the players. But the arm is kind of draped here. And he's saying, big boy, you got to learn those signals now. You really got to learn those signals. I don't want to put you on the bench. You got to learn the signals, son. You want me to respect you, you got to respect me by learning the signals. And then the situation is handled right there. It's not a big deal. He doesn't make minor things major things, especially in this town. He knows. I mean, the Red Sox have, at home, they have 135 media members for every home game. At least 135 media members covering their every move. So maybe 4 or 5 guys might understand that, oh yeah, a player doesn't know the signals, it's not a big deal. Do you think 135 people are going to understand that? 135 people are going to write it the same way or broadcast it the same way? So you have to be careful about anything you do in Boston, because small things turn into just big fires. And he learned as a minor league manager, there's a way to deal with a player. If I need to deal with Manny, I won't deal with him as he comes back to the dugout. Maybe I'll deal with him on a plane. I'll go to the back of the plane and talk to Manny about it. No one has to see it, and he's secure enough in himself where he doesn't need me or need you or anybody else to say, see, Francona really got in his face and told him. He knows it gets done, and the fact that we don't know is immaterial. You know what? I should sign these books. You guys are great. Thank you for listening.